Hi guys, it's Jim and Steve with Sports with Mono and Mono, and welcome back. It's November 4th, 2019, here with my partner and brother and sports connoisseur.
Sure, I can go with connoisseur. Welcome back to the show, everybody.
Yep.
What do you want to talk about, Jimbo?
Well, let's first bring our sponsors into play. Coriano Trucking Incorporated from West Haverstraw, New York.
Absolutely. Thank you, Guy.
So they, as of course, sponsor our NFL segment. Boy, do we have something to talk about here, right? Where do we start, Steve? I'll flip it to you.
I guess we should lead with our northeast audience, the New York Jets, and their state of abysmal play.
How bad?
It's terrible.
Isn't it?
You go down to Miami. We talked about the fact that Miami is trying to win the number one draft pick, and now they stub their toe and win a game. And now the Bengals still remain winless. But the main story is the New York Jets' ineptitude. Coach Adam Gase is under fire here, for our national audience because, we are literally in the New York market here. He's getting roasted, and rightfully so.
But the Jets don't fire their coaches. They're going to let this guy stick around. Do you honestly think they're going to fire him before the season is over?
I do not, but there are calls for his head.
Of course.
And who's to say that it gets so bad that in the off season that they look for another coach? I wouldn't be surprised. It's the Jets.
I do, but I think he finishes the season, as ridiculous as it may seem. And there's a couple of things I want to talk about the Jets, too. Because, first of all, my feelings on Sam Darnold, I'm going to say this. He's not as bad as he's looked, but he's not as good as the Jet fans had hoped. So he's like right in the middle, and he can go either way. And I don't fault him 100% for this.
They don't have an offensive line to protect him.
Obviously.
They don't even have a shell of an offensive line. It's that bad. And their skill guys outside of Le'Veon Bell, right,
are
non-existent. Jamison Crowder, he's a nice receiver for a team that is a good team, like a third receiver type of guy,
Yep.
I would say.
Yep.
And here he is. He's your Lynn Swan. You got this piece of garbage who, we don't like Robbie Anderson.
Oh.
I mean, the guy is an NFL wide receiver, but we don't like his character. I would get rid of that guy as soon as possible. And defensively, they have a lot of injuries. We talked that they traded Leonard Williams. They were shopping Jamal Adams.
To the G-men of all places.
Yeah, and they were shopping Jamal Adams, and who's now, not
disgruntled.
happy. Disgruntled.
Yeah. Well, let's call him disgruntled.
And also, they were rumblings that they were looking to get an offer for Le'Veon Bell. And again, apparently the phone was ringing. But the bottom line is they are just an absolute disaster right now. I don't foresee anything getting better there. I actually thought they would actually go down there and show up and actually beat a winless Dolphin team, but they can't even do that.
No, they can't. So, listen, they're the worst team in New York. The Giants, they got their hands full tonight and, playing the Cowboys and so forth. But we didn't expect much. We're threw in our new quarterback. He's learning the ropes and so forth. So we knew this year if they won 7 games, it would have been a success. But, all those thoughts are out the window next year. You got to turn it around. But I, as much as I'm starting to grow a little disgruntled with Pat Shurmur, it's not as bad as it is on the other side of the stadium.
No, it's not. So the Giants play the Cowboys tonight, and the Giants are actually making the Cowboys wear their blue jerseys, which, I don't know if everybody is aware of that, but historically the Cowboys, when they wear their blue jerseys, there's an old wives' tale that it's a hex, so to speak, and actually the Jets made them wear their blue jerseys when they actually beat the Cowboys.
I know. As a Cowboys fan, it looks cool as hell, but it don't work for them.
No, it doesn't. So we'll see what happens tonight. I think the Cowboys should take care of business. Like you said, Daniel Jones is still learning. Things aren't as bad in Giant Land, but things are bad in Giant Land.
They are. They're bad.
So Sterling Shepard's not playing tonight. That's a weapon for Jones doesn't have.
They're talking about this may be a little bit more serious than they're thinking. He may not even be back this year.
It's a possibility, especially with today's concussion protocol.
Which is right.
But the Cowboys need to take business, do business tonight, and take care of it because the Eagles won yesterday, and the Eagles are sitting at 5-5.
And I'm glad you brought them up because you know what? I had the Eagles against the Bills the week before, and this is my official. I'm getting off the Chicago Bears wagon. They are a lousy team, and I've wanted to like Trubisky. It just ain't happening there. I think he could be the first coach to be fired before the end of the season. Nagy. Underachievers beyond.
Well, I say Nagy staying. I don't
really
see him as one of the
hot seat guys.
No.
I do.
No,
I do.
I think it's quarterback play. Trubisky is just not. And again, the Bears traded up to get him. They sacrificed the number one to actually move up a slot in 2017.
Yep.
But unless this kid, gets on fire, I really think his tenure there is going to be gone because Matt Nagy is not going to ride his coaching career with Mitchell Trubisky.
I do think Nagy is on the hot seat.
I'm not saying he wouldn't be, but I don't see him as one of the top three guys to go. But back to the Eagles. The Eagles,
they're gearing
they've
up.
been inconsistent, but they're 5-5. And I took a look at their schedule. They literally are probably going to win at least 10, 11 games.
Right.
They have to play the Patriots, and then once they get by the Patriots, they got the Giants, they got the Dolphins, they got the Redskins. They got some pretty nice
soft schedule.
Nice soft schedule to close out the year. They got to play the Cowboys. But they're home for that.
I'm starting to like Carson Wentz more than I did, actually. For some
I don't
reason,
think Carson Wentz is a bad quarterback.
I think Doug Peterson's a pretty good coach, too. I've grown to like him as well. And believe me, this isn't easy for me to say I admire anything about the Philadelphia Eagles. But
well, they're Super Bowl champs.
But I did pick the Bears over the Eagles this week, at least to cover that spread. And I have egg on my face, and I'll take the left hook.
I was all in on the Eagles this week. But, and around the NFL, the Cleveland Browns are just becoming a laughing stock. And actually, I woke up this morning and saw Baker Mayfield's game press conference, wearing a raincoat with this cheesy 1970s porn star mustache. But all I could think of, he looked like Johnny Depp or something from Donnie Brasco or something. I'm like, oh my God, is he turning into Johnny Manziel before our eyes?
It's a very good analogy because they had high hopes for him, and I even said I'm kind of in on him. Although I didn't get on the Cleveland Browns bandwagon where everyone says they're going to win the division.
I thought they'd be competitive with the roster that they have, but you know what the missing link there? It's a dysfunctional group of teammates. They're not gelling. Freddie Kitchens is proving himself not to be. So if you're talking Matt Nagy, I'll definitely.
Yeah, but Nagy's had the job for 3 years.
I'll put Freddie Kitchens.
He's had it for 6 weeks.
But I'll put Freddie Kitchens 1 year in on the hot seat.
Okay, that's a bold statement.
Right, but Cleveland's been probably the biggest disappointment now up to this point. But I don't lose any sleep over this. So don't get me wrong.
No.
But we just wanted to bring up how bad things are in Cleveland.
And number 13 in Cleveland's been awfully quiet this year.
Yeah,
right?
He had a couple catches for about 75 yards.
Okay.
It's not his fault. If they would give him the ball more, probably, according to Odell, big things would happen.
Well, they have the number 1 pick in the draft thrown to him, so, there shouldn't be any excuses in Cleveland.
So Cleveland is a mess. The marquee game yesterday was the Baltimore Ravens giving the Patriots their first loss of the season.
Yep.
I rode the Patriots last night. I thought they would try and contain Lamar Jackson. Thought their game plan was to keep him in the pocket.
I will say
he was going to get these yards, and there were some runs that he made. It really shows his athleticism.
He is really turning into be quite the quarterback in this league, and I must say, you and I watched him at Louisville.
Won the Heisman Trophy.
Yeah, but you never know how it's going to translate into an NFL quarterback, he is hard to catch.
And
I was talking with some guys at work today, though. It's funny because we saw, about he's kind of a Michael Vick type player. But I think he's got a better arm than people give him credit for. And a lot of people say, no, he overthrows, he underthrows. I know, but he's a runner. But I like him.
Yeah. So of all the quarterbacks that came out in the draft 2 years ago, Lamar Jackson was, at the bottom of the heap, basically, getting selected by Baltimore late in the first round.
The last pick in the first
and
round.
Who right now, amongst that group,
would you like to have?
Who we're talking about? Darnold, talking about Baker Mayfield, right?
Yep.
So who's getting the last laugh right now? Baltimore right now. It's playing very well.
A good team. They're good. They're well coached. It's always been a good organization.
Absolutely.
Always been.
So the Patriots will not go undefeated. The 49ers.
Let's not panic, Patriots
No,
fans.
they're only going to lose maybe 2 more games.
2 more games.
13-3 home field advantage throughout the playoffs.
That's right. First round bye.
That's right.
We got it.
And elsewhere, Pittsburgh, Indianapolis was a good game. Jacoby Brissett gets, twist his knee.
Now, how bad was it? I haven't heard much reports.
It's an MCL sprain, so I'm sure he'll be out for at least a couple weeks.
Wow.
News could have been worse, but Brian Hoyer came in in his 48th year in the NFL.
Right, 17th team.
Right.
Yeah.
And so Pittsburgh wins that 26-24.
Yeah, but is every backup quarterback in the National Football League have the last name of Allen? I mean,
there's a lot of Allens going on.
Notice that yesterday. Go, this guy in Denver, another Allen?
Yeah, so it was Brandon Allen of Arkansas fame.
Brandon Allen, Josh Allen, of course, and Kyle Allen in Carolina.
There's a run on Allens.
Wow.
I mean, come on, when we think of Allen in football, who's the number one guy we think of?
Got to be Marcus, no?
Mine is George Allen.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't know whether you were talking player or coach.
Okay.
If you said coach, I would have
Marcus
picked George.
Allen's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, that's an interesting point, James.
Thank you.
Very good. Very good. So, I mean, it pretty much covers the NFL for this week.
Right.
And again,
like I said, we're in the home stretch, right? Starting the second half, things are going to start opening up, and a lot of things are going to change. And gee, can't wait for the Jets-Giants game next week.
So we'd love to hear from our Jet fans. Send us an email, sportswithmono@gmail.com.
Yep.
Or you can make a comment on the YouTube site. And of course, you can find us on SoundCloud and YouTube.
Yep.
So moving on to college football.
Yes.
There was some news off the field this morning. Florida State University has decided to part ways with coach Willie Taggart, and
which I think you and I had this conversation, and it was kind of like, this is coming sooner than people think.
Oh yeah.
How long are they going to stand for this kind of thing?
Not long.
No.
The boosters got together, and rumor has it
they're denying that they passed the hat around at the
at
Beverly Hills pool and said, we got to get rid of this guy.
Well, that's pretty much what happened. So he's out. So I'm sure Florida State will wait till the off season, do their due diligence, but you can expect a big name to go there.
I think the interim guy is a guy who's been there for 20 some odd years.
Last name's Hale. He's been there 26 years.
Yeah.
So he'll just ride the ship out for the rest of the season.
Yep.
As far as on the field, the big game this week, LSU, Alabama.
Does it get any bigger? I mean, right now?
I think this is the third time that they're playing that they're considered 1 and 2 in the country right now.
I don't know how Clemson fell out of the number 2 spot.
Some of the polls have it,
flip-flop with LSU and Clemson.
LSU, Clemson, Ohio State, that type of thing. But who do you like Saturday night?
I got to tell you, I'm sticking with Alabama. I don't know whether Tua is playing or not, but I just don't think Joe Burrow and the LSU Tigers can beat them.
Okay, well the game is in Tuscaloosa, so first and foremost.
But it was in Louisiana land last year, and Alabama took it to them.
That's right.
Joe Burrow hasn't done anything to prove to me that he can take that next step, especially against this team.
This is a game that is perfect for him to do such a task.
Exactly. And listen, he's having a great year.
Oh,
he's
he's
going to be in
having
the top 3, 4 in the Heisman Trophy.
He is.
You know that. So.
I like this kid, though. He's been a very efficient quarterback, makes good throws. And I don't mean just routine throws. He's making some really good throws, but you historically just don't think of quarterbacks out of LSU. You know, you think of like a Rohan Davey. Remember that guy? You know,
Marcus Hansel.
David Woodley way back in the day.
Oh, that's from the
Dolphins,
archives
right
there. Oh.
But you just don't think of, you know, a Hall of Fame NFL quarterback out of LSU, right?
Yeah.
You think of Dennis Quaid and everybody's All-American pretty much,
Right.
So,
But no, this is.
but
this
I
is-
think I got to go with Alabama as well. They're home. They have a really good secondary. I don't think the corners this year for LSU can control Jerry Jeudy, who's Alabama's top receiver this year.
He's a
And
player.
again, Alabama's just been pumping out top flight wide receivers.
I just think.
I think Tua plays though.
But I just think Nick Saban wants this rematch with Clemson so bad that he is not going to let these guys stumble
We shall see.
along the way. Because
So that's pretty much what's going on. And
Okay.
actually, right before this show, I actually bumped into Nunzio Campanelli, our friend of the show, head coach of Rutgers.
yeah,
And Rutgers took it on the chin at Illinois last week. Talked to him a little bit about the game. Rutgers was actually tied 10-10 at the half. And then in the second half, things just, you know, a couple fumbles. But what he said was he played like 9 freshmen in the game, right?
okay.
So what he told me, though, too, is he's hearing some rumblings that Mark D'Antoni at Michigan State probably will resign after the year is out. So I thought that was some interesting inside information. D'Antoni's been there for, it's got to be there for...
Yeah, but it could be tied back to this whole Michigan State scandal.
Well, that's
thing.
exactly
You know.
what, you know, we had this conversation saying, because it is Dr. Larry Nassar.
Exactly. They all know. As much as it pains us to say, even Tom Izzo knew more than he's letting on.
But
right?
Michigan State is just, it's very toxic right now.
Yeah.
With all this bad stuff
Yeah.
circling around it. So I wouldn't be surprised.
Might be a clean house
Yeah, well,
scenario.
D'Antoni doesn't want to, you know, have his legacy tied up in any way. So that makes perfect sense. So we'll be on the watch.
What, that he's a candidate for the Rutgers position? Is
No,
what you're saying?
that he's going to leave Michigan State because he doesn't want to be tarnished with all the, you know, bad karma that's going around there. That's all.
I think he's more complicit than he's letting on. I think this is part of that whole
We shall
fallout,
see.
you know.
We shall see. Nothing surprises us in the world
Okay.
of college football.
All right.
So, being that we're talking about college, what were your thoughts about the, you know, recent news last week? You know, the committee met to discuss compensating the athletes with their names and rights and everything.
You know
else.
what? I don't have a problem with this, and this may sound contradictory to what I said, because I've always said about the theory about whether we should pay college football players or college athletes in general, and I always said you're getting a $60,000 a year tuition free ride, treated like a king,
Right.
and I said that's
Room,
enough.
board, food.
But I think this is different. This likeness thing and this video phenomenon that we've gotten to. Hey, go ahead, go for it. I don't think it has anything to do with the college thing. It's just their right to. You want to use my name, Steve Monahan, Jim Monahan, kind of thing. Hey, pay me. I don't have a problem with it.
Okay.
You?
Well, I don't know enough about it really, but what I will tell you this: it's not going to happen overnight.
Of course not.
You know, and in fact, I don't think it's going to happen to the level that maybe the expectation is. I think because it's the NCAA, they're going to say all the right things and so on
Yeah.
and so forth. But I'll believe it when I see it. But I don't know how. I really don't know the behind the scenes of how they're going to.
Of course we don't. But if you just ask me in general, would you support that? I'd say, yeah. Why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
Okay.
It's so huge in this gaming industry that I don't
Well,
have a
this
problem
all
with it.
stemmed from Ed O'Bannon from back. Ed O'Bannon was a basketball player at UCLA.
Yeah.
Won the national championship with UCLA.
He played for the Nets too. Or something?
Yeah, he was like a journeyman.
Yeah.
Had a better college career.
He
than
did have a
NBA
big college career.
But anyway, Ed O'Bannon was sitting around, sitting on the couch doing their the basketball on Xbox or whatever, and sees his last name, O'Bannon. I think he was number 31, if I remember correctly.
Oh, but this is 25, 30
Right.
years ago.
So
right?
he consulted an attorney, and this is really how it all came about. So, and then he went to court. It took a while, took 3, 4, 5 years, whatever. And actually, they sided with that O'Bannon. So now California at least has passed the law,
Yeah, well, that's a
but it's
different world
California,
anyway.
so I don't put much stock in what goes on
No.
in California.
No,
But I just wanted to bring that up because that's really something that's, going to happen to college sports down the road.
California cops eating Milanos. What kind of place is that? Right, we get it. California is always that's a different state, different country.
Do we have to do the Seinfeld sitting in the police car with the siren?
Why do they do woo woo? Anyway, so listen, it's NFL and college football and stuff, and it's really getting exciting. So stay with us because we got a lot to talk about on that.
Yeah, so we'll segue down now to the high school scene for our local fans.
Yep.
Big weekend, couple upsets. Well, one in particular was DePaul knocking off Bergen Catholic. I will tell
Shocker.
you that. I actually coached with Al Natoli. Al's an assistant coach on the DePaul staff. So I saw Al. Congratulations, and
Yeah.
that was a big upset.
Sure. There's an upset a week in this high school football. It's so competitive. It's
Right.
unbelievable.
And then at night, our Green Knights of St. Joe's, and we talked about it last week, and we said Augie Hoffman was going to get them ready, and Augie got them ready,
Well,
and
he sure
they
did.
really took care of business. They beat the number 1 team in the state, the undefeated St. Peter's Marauders,
Yep.
and they really took it to them. I think it was 24-6, something along those lines.
And that's coming off a 2-game losing streak. I mean,
It was
they're
a
not-
big win for them because 5-4 and 6-3 are two different
Big time,
animals.
and St. Peter's was undefeated.
That's right.
So, I mean, you know what? I do have a problem with the state rankings and so forth, though. With that. So the new rankings came out. You know who the number 1 team is? Don Bosco,
Okay.
and I think they have 4 losses.
They do. I know they're either 4-4 or 5.
And I know you couldn't have, they just knocked off St. Joe's the week before and
Who
so
was
forth.
the number 1 team at the time. But
so,
they lost to Bergen Catholic in a close game. Now DePaul beats Bergen Catholic.
St.
St.
Joe's
Peters
beat
beats Bergen, and
It's crazy.
that's how competitive and awesome
Yep.
the high school football scene is around here.
Well, listen, it's just as awesome in Florida because Mike Garvey goes to the Naples High School and they're just starting their state playoffs. So we wish them good luck
We wish
too.
them good luck as well. And the kid I referenced up in Middletown, New York, I'm not sure, but I think their season has come to a close. So, we follow football from
We
New
do.
York to Florida to all over the
California.
country.
We do.
So we'll keep you posted with the upcoming games, but it's getting to be playoff time. And
And your Charles DePrima from Ramapo just keeps marching on.
keeps marching. Ramapo stayed undefeated. They beat Randolph to end their regular season.
Second consecutive season as
Yeah.
an
So
undefeated team.
Ramapo now will start the fence of their state championship, and
And
they
I
can't
think
get
they have
enough of
nothing
this.
to worry about.
Well, we
but it's
shall
high
see.
school football, as we
On
just
any
mentioned.
given Saturday
That's
or
right.
Friday night.
So listen, let's move on. Obviously, let's do our little wrap up for Major League Baseball because we got a new World Series champion,
We do.
and this is sponsored by Lynch Toyota of Manchester, Connecticut. So
Listen, it was a great World Series, and do I eat crow? Well, listen, I said the Houston Astros were going to win the World Series. That I still think they were the best team in baseball.
you're not alone, partner. I was on their bandwagon all year long. I didn't think they could possibly be beaten.
But it was a great World Series. In fact, it's kind of uncanny how it all worked out, where the road team really
One all.
was the dominant team, and
It's never happened
it's
before.
never happened before.
Yeah.
I mean, in '96, the Yankees Braves, Yanks went down 2-0, and then came back. So that was probably the most similar road team in the World Series winning.
Yep.
But you got to tip your hat. Steven Strasburg turns out to be World Series MVP.
Max Scherzer's still awesome.
Is
I mean,
phenomenal.
God.
But this Juan Soto, man, you're talking like a 21-year-old absolute absolute beast.
Oh, he's a phenom.
Who looks like he is Andre the Giant. So,
He is phenomenal.
right? And this Anthony Rendon, what can you say about this kid?
I talked about it. I said he should be the MVP in the league, right? Did I not say that? His
Well,
numbers,
good
but he
shout,
really
sorry.
came up big. And it's kind of funny. We'd be remiss if we didn't mention Bryce Harper leaving the Washington Nationals, going to the Phillies, and now they hit their peak and stride. It was a storybook finish.
No, absolutely. So, what can you say? I mean, Strasburg is already declared for free agency, number one. There was an interesting fact about him as well. He's the first number one overall pick to actually win
Win
the
a World Series MVP.
or I think even just win the World Series, and let alone the MVP.
I think it was MVP though. I don't know.
No,
And you remember when he came up, he was the guy. He was the number one consensus pick, no matter who had the pick.
we remember him at San Diego State is where he came from,
And then he struggled. He got injured and
but
so
he was,
forth.
I mean, you talk about a touted guy who could really blaze the fastball.
Oh my God, he was
He's
phenomenal.
exceeded expectations, and to your point, what you said, I mean, they shut him down a couple years back, maybe even a few years now.
Okay, this was career-threatening
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of
Listen,
injuries.
he's had history of arm trouble,
Mm-hmm.
but what a dominant performance from him.
Awesome.
And it was just a very competitive World Series. So what can you say? I mean, I got to throw that out there. People are questioning AJ Hinch. So you got Garrett Cole warming up, and
I'm glad you kind of brought that up because I was
for
kind
the
of
eighth and
scratching
ninth
my head.
inning, and why you don't pull the trigger on him sitting there. That's going to be an off-season question. That's not going to go away for him.
And I really, you got to scratch your head about that. I actually said before the game, if it gets down to it, this guy's coming in. I mean, was it him who said I can't go, or I'm a free agent and I don't want to go? I mean, is that possible?
Well, I mean, Garrett Cole is
AJ Hinch is a pretty good manager.
very much is. But Garrett Cole's going to probably hit the market, and he's going to command big bucks. And listen, I don't know if Strasburg. What I know about Strasburg is he's enjoyed his time in Washington,
Why
but it
not?
might be time for him. I mean, he can't do anything more than what he did, and let's see what kind of payday he's going to command.
And
on
he's,
the
listen,
open
I
market.
have no problem with guys that have performed and got to the pinnacle of their sport and now saying, listen, now it's about me. Now I'm going to take all the money. And listen, they've been paying him money all along.
Oh
but
yeah,
Not Scherzer money, I doubt.
Sure.
But he's
So-
not going anywhere, right? I mean, he's locked up
I'm
for a
sure
couple
he's
of years.
locked up, and you'll see Max Scherzer. I mean, he's probably only got a couple of years left in the tank. I mean,
Maybe.
we've talked about him that he's Hall of Fame bound. So
Right, even
never-
Strasburg's in his 30s now, which is
Right.
hard for you and I to
Well,
believe.
you can bet the farm Max Scherzer's going to the Hall of Fame.
Absolutely.
Yep.
There's no question about it.
So that's the World Series. We've got a new champion, and it actually, I think it was a little confusing for some people, myself included. I'm like, well, it's the Washington Senators. I know they won it in 1924 was the last time with Walter Big Train Johnson,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that's
And,
right.
But the distinction is, for our audience, is the Washington Senators and the Montreal Expos are tied together.
Exactly.
So the Expos left Montreal to Washington. So when you say 51 years, that's how long it's been. So it's the first World Series title for Montreal/Washington.
Exactly. I don't tie it. I just view this as another franchise in Washington.
Right.
They're not really like Cleveland and all, Indianapolis and the Rams.
I get
I
it.
mean,
Right.
good point. I'm glad you brought that up because, I heard that stat and I'm saying,
Yeah.
I think what they meant was it's the first time in 80 years or whatever that they pop champagne in Washington for a baseball team.
Right. So there's some. I just wanted to make that distinction there. So.
Yeah.
But, today we come into production and the Mets are in the news. So the Mets fill their candidacy for manager. On the show, of course, we predicted the demise of Mickey Callaway. It
We
took
did.
a little bit longer than we anticipated.
We did.
However, the Mets, after searching,
And,
Carlos Beltran, what are your thoughts, first-time manager?
I'm not surprised. He really was. I'd consider himself a Met. You know, I mean, he had a good run with a
7,
couple
8
of
years
teams.
at least he played for the Mets. So
But
Cardinals,
listen,
Mets, you think?
it's hard for me to dispute
Royals,
it and
too.
say, you know, this is a bad choice. He doesn't have experience. Well, either did Aaron Boone. He's done a great job.
Right,
and
either did Cora and
Bob Brenly and you know, all
Right.
these guys came out of the booth. So
Right.
I don't have a problem with that.
This guy's a class act, first and foremost. Yeah, I think he just falls short of the Hall of Fame. This guy had a fantastic career. I'm not saying I had to look at his numbers a bit more, but I'm just saying top of my
Okay.
head, he's right there. Don't get me wrong.
Absolutely, and we're going to talk about that in a minute
Yeah.
because there's Hall of Fame guys coming up, and you know he'll certainly be on the ballot when he's.
But I think that's a good choice for the Mets. I do.
I think Girardi would have been a better choice.
I do too. I'm
But-
glad you brought that up. So Joe Girardi, he did interview with the Mets, and he winds up now down the Turnpike in Philadelphia. So
Yeah, it seems strange.
I thought he was going to definitely get the Cubs gig.
That's exactly what everybody thought.
Apparently
Probably even him going, wait a minute.
Right? So listen.
I've been sitting out for 2 years waiting for this spot. And now Madden, you can kick him out the door, and now I don't get it?
Well, I mean, it's not a bad job, Philadelphia. You got Bryce Harper. You got some goodies in the dugout. But he's a good manager. We've watched him for 10 years, ex-Yankee. We know all about Joe Girardi,
Oh, yeah.
and he'll do a good job in Philly. Now, also today, there's some news as well on the Yankee front was that they failed to tender Didi Gregorius. So Didi is now officially a free agent. I
I
said
think
that.
it's a formality.
Well,
or
I said they
something.
weren't going to resign him several weeks ago, and listen, I just think it's because of Glaber Torres' success. They can slide him to short. LeMahieu is such a.
He's earned his spot in that
we love this
infield,
guy.
and he's not going anywhere.
We love DJ LeMahieu, so hopefully he goes to second base.
But then what do you do with third? I mean, are you counting on Andujar to
They're
come
gonna-
back?
they're gonna
I didn't
battle.
see that.
No, that he should be healthy, and I hate to say, Greg Bird, after another off season of.
There's a
Getting
bird
better.
sighting?
Yeah, bird
God,
sighting.
You got to be kidding
No,
me.
so the Yankees actually moved Bird, Andujar, and Jacoby Ellsbury, who, by the way, is due one more year at $23 million
Right.
off the
He's not going to
off the long-term shelf injury list. So now
I
they're
find
back
it
on
hard
the
to believe that they're even talking to Greg Bird. And, you know, I mean,
Listen, he's not being paid an awful lot of money, but
Well-
you'll hear his name, but
Yeah.
I don't think Greg Bird is going to work out for the New York Yankees.
I don't either. I don't either. So
And
listen,
also,
what-
wait, but one more.
go ahead.
J.D. Martinez decides to stay with the Red Sox and not opt out.
Because you're going to hit 90 home runs in
That's
Fenway
right.
Park.
It's
You
not
know,
like
you know.
he's walking away from a lot of money, but he's being paid well compensated. But I found that to be interesting that he wanted to stay with the Red Sox instead of testing. This guy would have commanded major.
Do you think so? I think he's kind of rapidly approaching the crest of his career. I mean, he had a very mediocre start to his
Yeah,
career.
this guy has just been nothing but money for the last 3 years.
Granted, but he's probably also 33, 34 years old. I don't know.
Yeah, he's probably 31 or so.
I think he likes Boston because he knows that this talent around that team. They just had a bad year. They won the World Series a year.
Right. So I also just saw that their payroll is $243 million, by far the number one payroll in Major League Baseball. I know the Red Sox are looking at,
Of course, the GM his job
well,
because
to
you know,
get down there, get down to below the luxury tax threshold. How they do that to remain
with the
as-
guys they have to sign.
Yeah,
forget it.
well, Mookie Betts is going to be next in line. I think after this upcoming season, he's going to be a free agent. So, do
Bradley and
they want to
everything.
lose this guy? Probably not. But they got to start getting their finances in order to keep these guys.
Wow. Okay.
So that's right now for the Hot Stove League. Basically, it's only a couple weeks, not even after the World Series, and things are already
Yep.
moving around in Major League Baseball.
Well, listen, let's just wrap up our baseball because you and I had a very interesting conversation because it's the Hall of Fame nominees.
Yes.
And we're very particular about who gets in and who doesn't get in, who shouldn't be in, who is in, that doesn't belong, so forth, right? So why don't you just rattle off a few names, and if you guys, out there disagree or have an
Yeah,
opinion one way or the other about this, Steve's gonna read them off. We're gonna give you our yay or nay, and
Right? So here we go, basically. So Because you're going to hear some names, and it says committee ballot first time. And what it means is if somebody played from 1970 to 1987,
Right.
and they weren't elected in already, they're no longer eligible to be voted in by the writers. So now you go to this committee,
Right.
where the famous one was, Ted Williams telling everybody he wanted Phil Rizzuto in the Hall of Fame, and that's basically how Phil Rizzuto got in the Hall of Fame.
Right.
But he's a perfect example of
Okay.
should he be in, should he not be. But that being said, leading the pack is one of my top 4 favorite athletes of all time, Thurman Munson.
One of mine
the
too.
New York Yankees.
But let's talk about Hall of Fame and
Yeah.
let's be objective here. And as much
So
as we
real
worship
quick,
them,
exactly. I mean,
No.
we're trying to not be biased here, and unfortunately, we got to say no. But Thurman won the AL Rookie of the Year in 1970,
Yep.
MVP in '76.
Yep.
He's one of only 2 catchers in history to hit 300 with 180 hits and 100 RBIs over 3 consecutive seasons. But of course, he passed away at age 32 in a tragic
two-time World
plane crash.
Series winner.
Absolutely, but unfortunately,
That's not what
we-
the Hall of
we
Fame
can't do
calls
it.
for.
Donnie Baseball.
And I told you, we just talked about this. For a couple of years, he was the best player in Major League Baseball.
But he had a stretch, I'd say 5 or 6 years. Donnie played 14 seasons, which I thought was longer than I remember because of his back history.
Yep.
Mattingly, 85 AL MVP, career .307 hitter, 9 Gold Gloves, and you remember him with the Grand Slams and all this stuff. But
this is where we get to the point we say, but Harold Baines got in.
exactly, but I
mean,
think Donnie Baseball falls short.
Yep.
Next.
That means Harold Baines has to come out.
Right. Next up, Tommy John.
Yes.
Tommy John played he played 26 Major League seasons. That's a lot. Yankees and obviously Dodgers.
Everybody.
Right, and
Like
everybody. So he came in second in the Cy Young in 1979, finished with 288 wins, 231 losses, 700 career starts, and in 14 years he pitched after his famous Tommy
Surgery.
John surgery.
No.
I don't think of Tommy John because of the fact that he played 26 Major League seasons, and if you divide 288,
Don Sutton got
I
in.
know he did. So I'm not going to discount that Tommy John has a few fans on the committee.
He's certainly beloved in those circles. He was
But
always
I
a media
think
favorite.
the one person on this list that we're going through, Ted Simmons, definitely is going to get in on this next vote. Ted Simmons fell short by 1 vote a couple of years ago,
Huh?
and Ted Simmons played 21 seasons for the Cardinals, Brewers, Braves. He's an all-star 8 times. He is second all-time in both hits and RBIs among players who spent at least half their careers as a catcher.
Right.
But we remember Ted Simmons when we were
Oh,
growing
he
up.
was just
It was money.
unbelievable
I say
hitter.
Hall of Famer Ted Simmons.
I wouldn't have a problem with him going.
Next, Lou Whitaker,
Well, you know what?
Detroit Tigers.
And we watched him play a lot. He was in the American League, had a great combination with Alan Trammell, but Hall of Fame, when I looked at
I
his,
don't think so.
when I looked at his lifetime average, which I thought was much higher than the 264 number that jumped off the screen,
Yeah.
no.
Nope. Sorry, Lou. Next up, interesting one. Dewey Dwight Evans of the Boston Red Sox. He racked up 2,446 hits,
Right?
won 8 Gold Gloves. He hit 385 home runs in the 80s, more than any other American League player in the decade.
Yeah.
And we remember him when when you read
I
about
wouldn't have a problem
8
with him
Gold
going.
Gloves, and it says nothing about the powerhouse arm of his that we watched him throw guys out.
Oh my God! He used to pick off Yankees like a skeet shooter.
So I'm going to reserve judgment to think about this more. I'm not going to say automatically no, but he was a great ball player.
I would not have a problem with him.
Next, who I think is going to get in, is Steve Garvey from Los Angeles Dodger and Padre fame.
You know what? I think he was the captain of that team and the Dodgers and so forth. It's
Cindy
unfortunate.
Garvey, of course, his wife at the
Yeah,
time.
talk show personality, reality TV was just
Right.
like,
But I think of Steve Garvey, so he batted .294. Lifetime, 19 seasons.
very handsome man too.
Very handsome man, very powerful forearms.
Oh, Popeye arms,
Totally.
totally.
Won the I didn't remember that he won it twice. So he won the NL MVP in '78 and
Right.
'84.
Right.
'84 as a Padre,
Yeah.
and helped the Dodgers win the '81 World Series. So I think of Steve Garvey defensively as well, and I'd see Hall of Fame.
I have no problem with that.
Next is Dale Murphy, who's an interesting one.
Well, it's interesting because you and I talked about it, and I just mentioned it with Donnie Baseball before. He was the best player. Like, remember, like Andre Dawson for
Yeah.
a couple seasons was the best player in the
No, Dale
game.
Murphy was a back-to-back MVP, says it all for that stretch,
That's
obviously.
very rare, very
Right.
rare. But I thought he was phenomenal. I thought his lifetime average was higher, closer to 300, but it really wasn't. But great player, absolute Hall of Famer.
398 home runs.
Hall
in
of
his
Famer.
18-year career with the Braves. But his lifetime average is 265. Is that what we just looked up? I gotta listen. We watched a lot of Dale Murphy baseball because remember TBS it just really came out with Ted Turner at that time.
Oh, the Atlanta Braves are on every night in
Every
New Jersey.
night.
Yeah.
So we saw Dale Murphy. So I think I'm just gonna say I know he had the stretch. I know he's a back-to-back MVP, but I'm gonna say no.
You're saying no, huh?
I'm gonna say no. And if you listen, anybody, once again, if you got questions, comments, we'd love to hear your opinions on this.
Sure.
Sports with mono and mono at gmail.com.
Because we kind of agree on most of these except for that one.
And there's just a couple more to fill out. It's remember Dave Parker of Pittsburgh Pirate fame. Dave Parker won 2 batting titles, was the MVP in '78.
And made one of the great
And won the
outfield
World
throws
Series with the Pirates in
Right.
'78 and
Yep.
the Oakland A's. But yeah, made that all-star throw,
Oh,
the
and
throw Brian Downing out.
I
at
think it was in
Oakland.
Yankee Stadium, actually.
I'm not
wasn't
now.
it?
I know for a fact. I think it was in the Kingdom.
Was it?
Yeah.
I thought it was Yankee Stadium.
So I say no on Parker, and I think he stained. Of course, he got caught up in the drug
Yeah, his
scandal.
off the field's got to come into
Right.
to play here.
Right. So I'm gonna say absolutely not on Dave Parker. Good ball player. Don't get me wrong.
Had a lot of hits.
We
He
saw
was-
him play a
He
lot
was
of games.
closing
so-
in on 3,000.
And then off the field, who is a legendary baseball figure, Marvin Miller. So Marvin Miller, wow, he's been dead 7 years now.
Yeah.
And of course, he's famous for help instituting free agency. He's head of the Players Association in the '60s, '70s, and on and on.
100%
He
front
was
office.
very
guy
highly
kind of
critical
type thing.
of
Yeah.
the Hall of Fame selection process, and he fell one vote shy of induction back in 2011 when he was still alive. I think that's interesting.
Oh, probably from some writer he wouldn't give an interview
Oh, there's
to
no
or
question.
something, you know.
Believe me, somebody had a vendetta.
Because there's not a baseball player that played before or since that wouldn't tip their hat to Marvin Miller and say thank you for
So I would say absolutely deserves to be in the Hall.
100%.
100%. And that's, right,
Excellent.
right now, these are the candidates that will be announced, probably in a few weeks, couple months, whatever.
Interesting,
And then they
though.
get inducted, next year. So,
But I must say, though, we do have these very high standards for Hall of Fame, and the NFL is no different and so forth. So that's an interesting list. These are guys that played when we grew up. We watched them play all the time.
this is
I mean,
prime time, in our prime.
we should have a vote. That's how
That's exactly right.
close we know how these players
Well,
perform.
hopefully we can get, now that we're media guys, maybe we will get a vote.
Exactly, and we'll knock some of these other stiff writers that have been on the board for 50 years, Let's
Exactly.
get some fresh blood in here. All right, so listen, that covers our baseball thing, and again, now that baseball is kind of over, we will roll little bit more into the NBA and the NHL, but right now
Absolutely.
that's taking a backseat to the football, both
Right.
pro.
Also, college basketball is about to tip off this week, and while we're talking about basketball real quick, so Michigan State is #1 in the nation,
Yep.
and they are playing the #2 Kentucky Wildcats.
Yeah.
I believe that game is maybe tomorrow night. So college basketball, we
Yep.
love it here, and we'll follow that.
Certainly.
And Virginia now is on the clock to defend their national title.
Yep. And listen, before we sign off, this segment is sponsored by Di Filippi's Bakery of Monticello, New York, who's been a loyal sponsor of ours for months now.
And actually, there's a little announcement about Di Filippi's Bakery. So anybody that's into keto or ketones, we spoke to Carmela recently, and she's actually amended her menu or expanded her menu, I should say, to
Be
include
keto friendly?
to be keto friendly.
Oh.
So when you're in the Catskills, it is the best baked goods. It's a great cafe for lunch and breakfast. And now, if you're following that keto plan, pop in and try one of her meals there. So we thank Carmela and Di Filippi's always as sponsoring our show.
Yep. And listen, before we sign off, I wanted to give a shout out. We have a new listener, Tony, who sent us some feedback on YouTube. I responded to it today, and thanks for joining, thanks for listening, thanks for posting some comments, and we look forward to you staying with us. And feel free to write us an email, as Steve keeps pointing out, sportswithmonoandmono@gmail.com.
Right.
We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear your comments.
And thank you, Tony. Tony found us through Pick Dogs, our friend Mitch Wilson's site. And we can't thank you enough, Tony. And please continue listening, and we appreciate it very much. Just wanted to wrap up the show with my shout out.
Right.
As you know, I coached the 12 and 13 Oakland Braves.
Yes,
And
sir.
we were in the playoffs on Saturday, and we won convincingly, and we beat up Northern Highlands to advance to the finals.
Excellent, Batman.
That is correct, and for any local Oaklandites and any youth football fans, we're going to be in action Sunday night at Doug Parcells Field. I think it's named after Doug Parcells. It's in Riverdale, and we kick off around 6 o'clock.
And we just talked about Doug Porcells. He just passed away
That's
about
right.
2 weeks ago.
Right, he was a notable passing recently.
Yep.
So we're playing the Garfield Boilermakers of Wayne Corbett fame and Miles Austin fame.
Oh,
There's
interesting.
another NFL guy that's underrated, Luis Castillo, defensive lineman for the San Diego Chargers about 10 years ago.
Okay.
Came out of Garfield.
Oh, well,
So,
good luck to your team.
We appreciate
Yeah.
it. My son Sean and all the guys and the coaches, Coach Al Natoli, Chris Schlenker, Chris Cortez, Rob Campanzano, Coral Kazmerzak, and we're looking forward to it. See if we can bring a Super Bowl to our town and
Excellent.
everybody bask in that. So,
Excellent.
that's my shout out.
Great. Congratulations to
Thank
my
you.
nephew Sean and his team.
Thank
Good
you.
luck in the game.
Thank you.
All right, guys. So listen, thanks for joining us, and we'll talk to you next week.
You bet. Okay. Once again, you can find us on SoundCloud, YouTube. Send us an email with any questions, comments. sportswithmono
Yep.
at gmail.com. And I'd love to get Mitch Wilson as a guest soon. Mitch has been clamoring to make a guest appearance.
Okay, I'd
So
love to have him.
We're going to fit him in soon. And we will catch up to you next week. Thanks for listening, everybody.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.